What is up? Lone Chemist Podcast, episode... Shit.
30.
30. All right, see, my guests are more prepared than I am. Perfect.
See? At least one of us has our shit in some way together.
Oh, well, you know.
I'm quite glad about that.
Oh, thank you. Now we're making enemies in the first 10 minutes of the podcast.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, you piece of shit. I'm half English, but, you know, we share no brethren here.
Yeah, but you know that half of you that's
Yeah.
English? That's
Yeah.
100% me.
Oh, that's why I hate you, man. That's part of the stuff that I hate. Anyway, my name is Johnny. I'm the Lone Chemist, and with me is a very spunky and very talented. You know, that's not a meme. Very, very talented. I have Owen from Owen Likes Comics. How's it going, man?
Hey man, I'm doing great, thank you. I'm really glad you invited me on the podcast. I've kind of been waiting to get on here. I've seen everyone else jump on, and I've been like, right, I gotta get on here. Like, High Top's been on, John's been on, Brown Table's been on. Like, right, I'm gonna crush this. So I'm pretty prepared to fuck all this up. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a glorious tragedy.
Well, dude, it's like we were trying to get this like planned for like almost a month now. Like I
Yeah.
remember I slid into your DMs like a high school girl like about a month ago, and yeah, it's been hard getting this set up, but I'm glad we finally did it.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
that's
here.
it. It's kind of just sorting scheduling's out, but we're here, we're doing it, and it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be dank, so dank.
The
and-
dankest.
Honestly, it might be just like the word dank just personified in the dictionary. Like you
Honestly,
yeah.
you look dank, you're just gonna see a photo of this podcast, and
Yeah.
everyone's gonna be like, yeah,
Yep.
that sums it up. Perfect.
Well, smile for the photo.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so Owen here is a YouTuber, and he has, well, I guess kind of go into like the rundown of your channel. Like how would
Sure.
you describe your channel?
So the way I would describe my channel, Owen Likes Comics, is we evaluate and we look at comic book movies, comic books, and kind of mainstream media in general, and we kind of look at the historical side of it. So we look at the behind the scenes of movies and comic books and look at the decisions and the creative processes that lead to them getting made. So, for example, we put a video up today looking at the unproduced and failed sequel to 1997's Batman and Robin starring George Clooney. That basically, while they were producing that glorious mess of a movie, they were already working on a sequel, and there were two different scripts going around of two different avenues to take the franchise that ultimately never got made because Batman and Robin failed miserably. So we looked at that and we looked at like what if either of those scripts happened, what that would have meant for comic book movies going into the millennium and so forward. But we also look at like infamous, like really significant comic books. For example, got a video coming up about the death of Superman and kind of how that affected the idea of death in comics. And we do other stuff. We talk about Avengers Endgame because that's what everyone does.
All right.
But
Well,
we haven't made
yeah.
we haven't made a Thanos video yet, so maybe I need to get my shit together with
yeah.
that.
And make sure you post a link to my video and be like, "This cuck has a terrible video on Thanos. You should go
Oh,
shit on it."
I should do a response video and like a takedown on you.
Oh God. Well, it's not as effective now because I know it's coming. Like you gotta be like a boxer. You gotta like give me the right hook, and I can't see it coming.
Damn it, I'm terrible at this.
Yeah. Well, it's all right.
Fuck. I'm just gonna like leave you slightly mean comments.
It's all right. You're gonna destroy me with facts and logic to the face,
Destroy you with facts and logic.
with an axe made of logic and truth to the face. So like so from what you describe your channel as, like have you always been into comic books, or has it been kind of like a recent thing that's kind of surged?
It's weird to explain. So I got into comic books when I was quite young, like maybe like around like 5 and 6. I really first started getting into comics, and it originally started through like obviously like the big animated series from like the late 90s and early 2000s, and then obviously like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies and the X-Men
yeah.
movies, and then I kind of got into Marvel and DC as a result of that. And then kind of around high school, I kind of dropped off for a few years because I decided I wanted to make a thinly veiled attempt at being cool that just didn't work. So then kind of as of like 5 or 6 years ago, I always kind of kept up a little bit with comics, but I wasn't like regularly reading comics.
Yeah.
So then about 5 years ago, I kind of made a conscious effort to get back into reading actual physical comic books. And obviously that was around the time that comic book movies really kicked on. And eventually I just thought that I spend enough time reading these and watching these, I must have an opinion or two that someone out there must enjoy. So, and here we are, couple of years later, and I'm still getting told that my opinions are worthless. So, yeah, we'll see if those opinions change.
You should read my comment sections for all my videos and my Twitter thread, man. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I think that's something all creators have to deal with. Is just there are like 99% of comments are always like brighten my day. I am so generous and so lucky to have so many awesome people kind of in my community. But God, the internet can be an awful, awful place.
Honestly, it's like a cesspool for just like egos and shitting on somebody for no reason.
It is literally heaven and hell in an app.
It honestly
It's
is.
incredible.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice bohemian way of describing that.
There you go. Feel free to use that, and when anyone argues it, I can take them down with facts and logic. It's perfect.
I love that meme so much. Just like destroy you with facts and logic with a spear to the face made of truth.
Honestly, I haven't considered too much about what I want on my tombstone, but I'm pretty sure it's that.
No.
If I had a gun to my face right now and said, right, what do you want on your gravestone? It would be Owen, date of birth, date of death, destroyed with facts and logic with an axe to the face made of truth. And honestly, if that was the way I went, I would feel pretty happy. I always said that if I wanted to die, it'd be choking on a big sandwich, but that's a pretty good second.
Honestly, like, because like you can't handle the facts and logic and truth, or maybe, or would you have it like you're destroyed, or like would you be like the destroyer of facts, logic, and truth? Like, would you be the actual destroyer or the one who's actually decimated by it?
Look, so the way these things work is throughout your life as a destroyer of facts and logic, eventually you will become the hunted. That's just an inevitability. So it's like you've seen the movie Looper.
Of
for
course,
example.
the loop's closed.
So that's it. Eventually, my younger self would have to kill me with their facts and logic, and I'm okay with that.
Loop's closed, man.
That's it. The loop of facts and logic eventually has to be closed with a truth-binding circle, and that's just how it's going to be.
Wow, what poem was that from? That's beautiful.
That was from
Truth Master 69 on YouTube.
Yeah, go subscribe. They're great montages of facts and logic.
Oh man, that's hilarious. All right, so back on the actual subject of the podcast. So you are a guy with you have like 18,000, 19,000 subs, something like that.
Yeah, we're kind of almost at 18 and a half.
Nice,
so
dude.
That's nice.
Yeah, good for you.
It's kind of just been steadily going and picking up new people on the bandwagon as we go along. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's fun. I like my favorite part about all of this is just getting to. It's not even like the making of the content; it's the discussions that come out of it.
Yeah.
Because like I spend like a week, 2 weeks, sometimes even months researching and writing these, to then get them out and then to have people debate me and discuss things with me and give me other perspectives. I find really cathartic and really interesting. As someone that writes for most of their living, it's nice to be able to get that kind of feedback and that kind of discourse with other people. So, yeah, I mean, we hit 18,000 like last month or a bit longer. Hopefully, last 20, then you can join me and become more successful than me, and it'll be great.
Well, yeah, like you've had a slow uptick of growth, and like mine's just been like legitimately all of a sudden because no one gave a shred of a shit about my channel until about a month ago. So,
I mean, yeah, I'm fascinated with YouTube.
Me too.
I find that stuff infinitely interesting, but with some channels they kind of just like spike, and then they just go into the stratosphere. Some spike and then kind of peter and stay at a good level, and then some of them more gradual. But who knows? Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll have 1 million. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and my channel will be deleted for copyright strikes or something. This is the battle that we all fight.
Yeah, honestly, like, I mean, like, so I'm a graduate student, and also I wanted to ask, so like what's your background? So like, do you like do you study film, or are you a student, or?
Yeah, I'm a postgraduate student, but not of film. I am actually a historian.
Really?
So, yeah, I scour the past to destroy arguments with facts and historical logic. No, yeah. So I am a historian postgrad. I graduated my undergrad degree last summer, and I'm currently on a 2-year postgraduate course for a master's in history and culture. So, which sounds a lot cleverer and a lot fancier than it actually is. So, I don't spend as much time in a lab per se, but I do spend a scary amount of hours in libraries and archives. So, yeah, it's fun.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, like you're a graduate student as well, so I feel the fucking pain of sending your life away to study something that's like. So I'm a PhD student in chemistry, and so I basically study. Without boring you too much, I study basically the anthropogenic influence on climate change. So what happens when basically things are in the atmosphere.
I understood the words climate change.
Anthropogenic means human made, and climate change is climate change. So like basically it's like how humans are impacting the environment, but instead of you like examining on like a global scale, it's very singular. So that's the thing about chemistry is like when you pick a project, it's a very singularly focused project, but the motivation is quite broad. So like
I can understand that.
Yeah. So like I'm just suffering away and trying to get this goddamn doctorate so I can get those 3 fucking letters after my name. But
that's all we're doing it for. We're all just doing it for the letters. How far in are you then?
I am. I started my 4th year. So
okay.
So I should be finishing up in about 1.5 2 years, something like that.
Nice. That's exciting.
I just want to get the fuck over it and get out of here, man. Like it's a.
So have you stayed at the same university, or have you kind of moved to different ones as you've gone along?
Well, so I got my undergraduate. I graduated in 2015, and so I've been out in Chicago doing my PhD.
Nice.
And I've been here the entire time, which sounds really insular and like I'm in prison or some shit. But they
do let you leave campus some days.
Some days.
Nice.
Like good. I won't even tell you how many all-nighters I never pulled an all-nighter in my PhD before until this year. I've pulled probably like 10 to 12 or something like that. Like, yeah.
I've been there. I can relate.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
it's horrible.
There's a different kind of like ego shot that you take from like being in a library. Because I've done this actually a couple weeks ago. I was writing a proposal for something. I was in the library writing and reading for 24 hours straight, and I wanted to kill myself. And then there's the all-nighter in the lab where like not only do you have to like be sharp and acute like you would be if you were a historian, but like you have to be dexterous and like good with your hands. And after like 18 hours of no sleep, I want to blow my brains out. So
honestly, I can usually get through about 10 straight until like I have to start ensuring myself that these words are actually words.
Oh my god, the hallucinations too. Oh man,
when you start reading documents and sources enough where you're like, is this actually how the English language works? Or like you really start second guessing your basic understanding of grammar and like just spelling. It's great. Honestly, I wouldn't do anything else with my life. I'm truly blessed.
Oh my god, hashtag blessed. Hashtag blessed. Are you a PhD student or a master's student or like a
So I'm a master's student right now. I'm on a 2-year master's course. I could have gone straight into the PhD, but I decided not to because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to just do the PhD or if I wanted to go into lecturing and teaching.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this course now, and I'm hoping to figure out either one by Christmas. There is an avenue where I could possibly do both. So I'm kind of weighing that up with some of my supervisors and kind of my mentors and trying to figure out what would be great. But who knows? But right now, I'm just working on the master's degree, hopefully getting that done next year, and that'll be nice. I can have some more letters on my name.
Yeah.
Which would be
there you go.
That's it. I'm just trying to get the whole alphabet. That's the plan.
Yeah, me too. I feel that. Isn't that so shitty how like graduate school takes something that you once loved and it makes you really bad at it? Like, legitimately, like a PhD. A PhD is like honestly, graduate school and specifically like a chemistry graduate school. Like and like I was enamored by chemistry throughout my entire undergrad. I did research. It was hard, but I loved it. Graduate school is where you go to suck at the one thing you're good at.
Yeah, it's like you think that because I have like achieved so much in this specialist subject, I'm going to get there and feel competent. And then you get there and you're told, right, everything you know means shit. You are nothing. Let's start from scratch. You're like, okay, here is a Bunsen burner. I'm guessing that's how it went for you. I mean, they weren't bringing Bunsen burners out for me. I'd be quite confused, but
Yeah. Well, we have hot plates now, so we're in the future now. But
damn.
yeah, maybe if I was a PhD student in like the '60s or '70s, I would have a Bunsen burner.
I mean, my
thankfully,
high school still had Bunsen burners, but that's probably because we were awful. Which that could be a whole podcast in and of itself, but
just shitting
let's
on
not
high school. Yeah.
on it. Oh, seriously, and college, and no, university was fine. University's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I feel like I'm just going to detour into like PTSD related trauma of my life. So be prepared for that.
no, we're getting along fairly well, and like I definitely sympathize with a lot of the things that you're talking about. So
Mhm.
that's good. We can go on that in a little bit. But so as a comic book YouTuber and
Yeah.
like a person that makes like like video essay-esque content,
Mhm.
I would have to say like what do you think are some of the best comic book movies that are put out? And I'm not saying like they're based on the comic book premise. They're legitimately like, comic book page to film. What do you think is the best translation of that kind of medium to film?
Easily. It's the 2017 masterpiece, Justice League.
Oh my God. Perfect.
It's
Oh,
I made 3 whole videos about that movie. It changed my life. I have probably watched that movie more times than a lot of other better movies.
release a Snyder Cut.
No, just send it to me. Don't release it. Just give it me, and I will put it on Patreon
But
for
dude, like,
at the $1 million tier.
dude, you know what that's like though? That's like solving world hunger and not telling anybody about it.
No, it's selling it off for a premium. It's capitalism, baby.
Okay, memes aside.
To seriously answer your question, in terms of like straightforward adaptations, I think the obvious one is probably Watchmen.
Yeah,
I mean, that is as close as you'll get to a page to screen adaptation. Like, they literally use the comic book panels as storyboards for the film.
yeah,
There's so much kind of like, even the small details in Watchmen, like shot compositions and the placements of the camera are mirrored to the way that panels are drawn in the comics.
yeah.
I don't necessarily, not to go off on a tangent too much,
Go ahead.
but I don't think that sticking as closely as possible to comic books always results in the best movies.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with any medium where like you'll get it with popular television shows based on books and all sorts where it's like, no, they should be doing this. It's like, no, what we're getting now is a filmmaker's interpretation of that story. So they've got to change things and adapt things that fit their version best. It's like with I've kind of experienced that a lot with the DC fandom and the Marvel fandom a little bit when things like Civil War and kind of like the big tentpole comic book based stories happened.
Yeah.
It was like, so let's use Civil War as an example. Like Captain America: Civil War, great movie.
Yeah.
Most people love it, but there was like a minority of people that were like, this is nothing like the Civil War comic book, which it isn't.
Yeah.
But that's because Civil War the comic book is one story, and Captain America: Civil War the movie is another story, one that takes heavy inspiration from the comic book, but it isn't the comic book.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want straight forward like panel to screen adaptations, a lot of like the animated movies do that great, especially like the DC stuff historically
Yeah.
has done really great like pure translations. Like you got the Dark Knight Returns, you've got Year One. You had pretty much everything up until they did Killing Joke was a very close and real adaptation of comic books. But I think with movies, and I think with any kind of like screen and performance-based media, there has to be a room to maneuver for filmmakers and actors to make it their own, and you can't kind of be beholden to source material. I think that's when you kind of get in a grey area. You see a lot with. So one of the kind of examples of that is the Star Wars fans that wish that the new films more followed closely books from the expanded universe.
Yeah.
So, like, you'll get loads of people saying, like, oh, these sequel movies would be better if they followed the Timothy Zahn Thrawn books or whatever. I mean, like, yeah, they're great books. But I've read them. I know those stories. The movies are giving us completely different stories. Therefore, we're getting more stories. Surely that's a good thing. It's like, I've read the comic book Age of Ultron. But the movie Age of Ultron is completely different,
Yeah.
which now means I have double the amount of Age of Ultron stories to enjoy. Surely that's better than just having two versions of the same thing. I mean, maybe I'm in the minority, but that's kind of just how I see it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like there are some things that can be commended by that whole page to film adaptation being really really stringent. Like you cite Watchmen, for example.
Hmm.
Even though I'm not the biggest Zack Snyder fan, I can't deny that I'm a massive fan of the Roger Moore comic books. And
Yeah,
like the fact that like they were able to actually film some of the things they did and some of the things are actually staged like they were in the book, it's pretty inspiring, and it's pretty it's like the profound respect that you have for the book is pretty clear. Now, of course, there are things that are changed from the comic book, like the giant squid, as opposed to like just a Manhattan explosion. But those changes oftentimes actually serve the story quite well.
yeah. I mean, I've had this conversation with a few people, and we've kind of all come to the agreement individually that I think the changes made in Watchmen, especially, benefit the story more.
100%.
Obviously, you cited the change from it being the giant squid to being Doctor Manhattan. Like, works better and more thematically suits the narrative of the film.
Exactly.
And it's funny because, and I kind of find that so funny that because Watchmen is kind of the closest and most source material like of any like big budget comic book adaptation, like the diehard Watchmen fans do not like the movie because of that one change, and I find that utterly fascinating. That it is like 99% the graphic novel, but because of that one directorial and writer change that arguably suits the narrative better and makes more sense than what the original graphic novel gave us, that then it's immediately disowned by that part of the fandom. I just find that very interesting.
Yeah, it's really weird because I mean, like I said, I'm a huge fan of those comic books, but like I'm like you, where I can kind of segment my nostalgia factor like to a degree where I can actually appreciate the narrative they're putting on screen as opposed to like.
Well, that's it. It's like, I think for me, it's like, say a filmmaker takes one of my favorite comic books and does something with it that I don't particularly like. That doesn't mean my enjoyment of the original book is in any way diminished, because I still have that. It's like, say, and I'm not as much of a hater, quote unquote, of this movie as some people, but say, for example, Batman v Superman. I have a lot of mixed feelings on that movie, and it takes a lot of liberties from The Dark Knight Returns, which is, a classic comic book that people love, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
But because I didn't like the movie Batman v Superman as much as the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel, that doesn't mean that I dislike the Dark Knight Returns anymore because of what Batman v Superman does to it. I can separate the two, and I think that's something that is really important. I think a lot of people are missing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. And like the thing with Zack Snyder cites inspiration from those things, but that's the key word. It's inspiration.
Well,
so
that's
like,
it. And I think that
like you take the cybernetic Batman suit, you take like the whole iconic like Superman like like flying down the rain to like meet Batman and fight him and stuff. Like you take bits and pieces. But that's also one of the problems I have with the movie is that because of the profound amount of inspiration and homages the film actually has, it's hard to actually dial in the actual narrative of the story because
and not to turn this into a BVS podcast.
We can go ahead. Yeah,
I mean, we can. I mean, with that, because of, and I, much like you, I have complicated feelings on Zack Snyder. I think that, I mean, the old trope that people throw is he's a great visual director, and that's true. But I do appreciate how much homage he pays to imagery and to like iconography from source material.
Yeah.
Like even in his DC movies, in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman especially, there are so many little things that relate back to comic books, which is fantastic. For the people that have read all those books, there's an added bonus. But it should always just be an added bonus.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. That shouldn't be the narrative of, oh, you've read Dark Knight Returns, so you know this is what Batman will be like. It's like, no. We need an in-film and kind of in-canon explanation that our knowledge of the Dark Knight Returns only adds to.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And not to kind of put it into a Marvel versus DC scenario, because I believe that we can enjoy both and there is no need for any sort of rivalry because they share actors and directors and it's great. James Gunn's going to unite everyone.
Oh, yeah. We can talk about that a little bit too. Yeah.
It's like Marvel have kind of done quite well of blending in famous moments and iconographies from the comics. I can think of some very big ones in Avengers Endgame that I'm not going to go into and spoil, but there are some big fan service moments there that if you've read some of the big Marvel comics of the last couple of decades, you will get big kicks out of.
Yeah.
But that isn't the focal point of the story. It's look at all of these comic books I've read, aren't I great?
Yeah.
It's we know that you've read these stories. We're doing this with the stories, but look, do you see where we're going? It's that extra layer. And I think fan service and I think paying homage to other versions of the characters and other source material is fantastic. And there's a place for it. But that always should be kind of like an added bonus.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be the foundations. You shouldn't go into a story thinking, oh, I want to take this, this, and this and Dark Knight Returns. It's, okay, well, what is that in service of?
Yeah, for sure. And like, I mean, to go on that point, like, I think Civil War versus BVS is a perfect comparison of that kind of thing. Because, you know, BVS, it has all these, like, you know, beautiful moments, but that's the thing. Like, it's a narrative that's linked by these massive moments that pay homage to the comic books or are meant to shock and awe you. But the narrative linking them together is rather disparate in terms of like what you're trying to get.
I think in a video I made, I described Batman v Superman as a collection of great scenes.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch individual segments from the movie out of context, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree.
The film struggles in placing them together in a cohesive way.
Yeah, and that's got to be chalked with the sequencing or like or editing. But the thing I was going to get at with BVS and Civil War is, so you have, like, you know, for example, the cybernetic Batman suit. You have like the dust flying, which is similar to actually a lot of comic books, not just Dark Knight Returns. But then you look at something like Civil War. Civil War has with the exception of Zemo's plan, like, because it's pretty out there and weird, it's a pretty ironclad story, but they also have those moments where they're meant to call back to the comic books. Case in point, during Iron Man and Captain America's final fight, you know, the laser beam against the shield.
Like, they recreate the cover of the graphic novel.
It's a beautiful, beautiful moment, but that's the thing. It is a moment. It is not... The moment is not in... The moment is in service of the story. The story is not meant to service the...
You're not going into the film waiting for that moment. That is just an added bonus.
Exactly.
Whereas it kind of did feel like in Batman v Superman, one of the big selling points was the fact that we were going to get the Dark Knight Returns fight.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, it was great. Like, I mean, I didn't like the leading premises towards that, but the fact that that was filmed was fantastic. Like the fact that like, you know, Bruce Wayne disarms Superman with kryptonite as a gaseous thing and like beats the crap out of him and stuff. I mean, I don't like the resolution at all. I mean, we can talk about it for fucking hours, but I do appreciate the fact that Zack Snyder really does want to pay homage to a lot of stories. But my problem with him is when you pay homage to so many things, at a certain point, it's not a narrative anymore. It's literally just like you take the graphic novel, you pick a page, and that's what you're going to put on screen. And like, without rhyme or reason to like motivate why those are connected in the first place, it kind of defeats the purpose of filming it as a singular thing that makes any sense.
Well, yeah, I think there becomes a point where you stop paying homage and your film becomes a collage of other people's works.
Totally.
That makes sense? It's like, I love the fact that filmmakers like Snyder are dead set on giving comic book fans these moments. And I think that with kind of a better scriptwriter and kind of more revision on that part, that could have made BVS such a great moment for people that have followed those characters for so long. And the problems with that movie aren't the moments, because like you said, the Batman Superman fight in and of itself is fantastic. The Doomsday fight sequence, which although it really doesn't need to be in the movie, like in terms of filming a live action version of the Superman Doomsday fight from the comic books, it's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem isn't that these moments don't work themselves. It's that they don't fit into a larger cohesive story, which is kind of the central point of what was said.
Yeah, I totally feel you on that one. Yeah, like and like this is a total meme, but like it's true. Like Zack Snyder, like if you give him source material to adapt and not like pick and choose what to actually adapt, but to give him a story to adapt, you know, 300, Watchmen, Dawn of the Dead, he does great. Like honestly,
Yeah.
like I'm Greek. I have a soft spot for 300. Like, you can tell from the big ass nose that I'm Greek. Uh, but with Dawn of the Dead, it's a reimagining of an incredible film that came out in the 70s, and it's for modern day. And for
Yeah.
Watchmen, I have problems with it, but like in terms of a comprehensive story, I think it's an absolutely gorgeous film to look at, and like actually gets a lot of good things out of the book for sure.
I think it's interesting that I think the idea of certain filmmakers working better with limitations is interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
And thinking about it, I probably haven't thought about that much, but they are probably what I would regard as his three best films.
Yeah.
And they probably are the films where he has the most constraints because there is only so much source material to adapt. Because with Watchmen, you only really have the original story. I know they made some prequel comics or
Yeah.
whatever, but really you've only got the original graphic novel. 300's the same. Dawn of the Dead, you have the original movie that they are remaking. Whereas when you're making a Superman movie, you have like 75 years of catalogue to pick from.
Exactly.
You can take bits and pieces from like hundreds of different stories. Maybe it's just a case of when you're spoiled for choice, you want to throw in all of these favourite moments. You don't want to leave anything out. But the more you try and put in, the more difficult it gets.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, even with, say, like the most recent DC film, Shazam, that is largely based off one graphic novel series. That's pretty much a very faithful adaptation of the Jeff Johns run on New 52.
Yeah.
It's like with that, they could have paid reference and homage to going back to the Silver Age of Captain Marvel comics, before the character got cancelled in the 40s and 50s. But then they kept it fine tuned. They stuck to, okay, this is a graphic novel story that works, it's popular, it is a compelling narrative. Let's just use that as the basis for what we're doing. And of course, there are some changes and there are some things they swap out and put in, as you expect. But for the large part, they take a graphic novel that works and they adapt it in a way that feels both fan servicey but also works in terms of a narrative.
Yeah, no, I feel on that because like when you're making a movie that has so much lore behind it and has so many leading premises, like actually building up to this character being put on the screen, you have to balance the fact that, okay, I am balancing fandom and trying to put this character that everyone loves on the screen, but I also have to tell a story at the end of the day.
And
so
it's really not an easy job to do.
No, not at all. Not at all.
When you just say it out loud, you realize how difficult it is to balance.
Because you have to please so many people. You have to please the hardcore fans of the comics. You have to please the people that actually like film and don't really give a fuck about comics. The casual fans. The people that are invested in the entire universe. People that have heard about the character but like have never really seen a movie or a comic in their entire lives. And so you have to bring in all of these people, and then you also have to tell a cohesive story and also have fan service moments. And even though I'm not a big fan of Zack Snyder, like even though he's a pretty pretentious guy, and like that whole SnyderCon thing when he said like go fuck yourself, you don't like my movie, that was pretty cringy. But like, but I have sympathy for him. We're like, like he has creative control over this movie, and he's trying to make it something that people will like and people want to see. And he also has all these responsibilities. And like the fact that he's become a meme, like I get it, it's terrible. It's kind of sad. I will say that the people that are released a Snyder Cut every single time Warner Brothers tweets anything, I don't have a lot of sympathy for those people, to be honest with you. But
No, I mean, I'm in two minds about the whole Snyder Cut. I mean, so I made a 3-part series looking at the behind the scenes of Justice League. I'm kind of looking at all the trials and tribulations of what went on behind the scenes there, and there is a lot. The general consensus I came to in those videos was the reason that the movie ended up in the state it wasn't necessarily Snyder's fault.
Yeah.
Although you could argue his reluctance to change his vision after the mixed receptions of Batman v Superman and Warner Brothers the problem was Warner Brothers went into the idea of making this big cinematic universe without a long-term plan. They made Man of Steel, that worked, so they gave the keys of everything to Snyder. It wasn't just giving him Superman, they gave him DC. And they said, right, build this. And so he came up with a big 5-film plan or whatever it was, and he started doing it. There are the stuff in BVS like the nightmare sequences, and they're clearly setting up things much further down the line than just the next movie. But because BVS didn't crack $1 billion at the box office and it wasn't as beloved as they'd hoped, Warner Brothers were then like, oh, hold on, maybe we need to rethink this, and maybe we need to refocus how we're going to approach Justice League. Now, the problem was they put so much faith in Snyder beforehand that you then can't go and tell the filmmaker, don't do what we've asked you to do, especially given how close the filming dates were between BVS's release and Justice League.
Yeah.
So the situation they found themselves in was that they were paying people to rewrite Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder's script while Zack was filming things, which, like, whether or not you're a fan of him as a director, you can't do that to a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Like, that's not an environment that he can produce his best work.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
And so, everything happened with Snyder's personal tragedy with his daughter, which is horrible.
Yeah.
Of course. And, my heart went out to him when that happened. So he left the project, and then Whedon came on and when they announced Whedon was coming on, they announced that he was just going to film what Zack had still to do and polish it off and just touch up and make sure everything's fine. And I genuinely believe that when Joss was brought on, he was brought on under that pretense. The problem was, Warner Brothers still were not happy with the movie, so they told Joss, right, we need you to Avengers it up or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't blame him either, because obviously he was just doing what the studio told him. The problem was that the studio, midway through making a movie, changed their idea on what it wanted to be and didn't plan it out. And as a result, you have two sets of filmmakers who have become incredibly divisive and incredibly hated by some subsects of its own audience. Both Snyder and Whedon, to an extent, have both become incredibly controversial filmmakers because of what they did to Justice League, when ultimately it's Warner Brothers that has to take a lot of the blame for that movie. Because, like, while I'm not the biggest fan of either filmmaker, I could quite confidently say I would much rather watch a full Zack Snyder Justice League or a full Joss Whedon Justice League. I don't really mind which one, but I'd take either over what we got in the end, because at least that would feel like someone's vision. It would feel like someone is making a film that they had a genuine passion to make. Whereas what we got in the end was completely soulless, it lacked any identity, and it was a complete Frankenstein.
Yeah, Frankenstein's a great word for it, because legitimately, and like, I have a lot of sympathy for, of course, Zack Snyder with the whole thing with his daughter, which is terrible.
Yeah,
but also Joss
course.
Whedon, I think after Age of Ultron, he was like, I'm never making another film ever again, like when he got all the hate for it and shit. Mm-hmm. And so when they brought him back, like, legitimately, he was just doing what the studio told him to do. I think it was like they mandated under 2 hours, no exceptions, like when they told him to cut the movie. And then think about that. And like, cast aside like the fact that he didn't film any of the footage, like the principal photography for himself, the fact that you have to take all of this stuff and dilute it down, like get some kind of semblance of a narrative or character arcs, and then make it under 2 hours, that is an absurdly difficult task. Like, as much as I hate the movie, like asking someone to do that, especially when it's not their own vision in the first place, is absolutely absurdly difficult to do.
Especially considering that movie was going to be the start of a 2-part series.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. The fact that they tried to cut off all, like, the threads to other things in it. I mean, even down to, like, they try and strip it away of its in-universe identity with, like, the changing of the scores and getting rid of all the Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL themes from the previous movies.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's trying to disavow itself of the films that came before it as a way to not have to fulfill what's meant to be coming after it. So one of the big examples is, like, the removal of Darkseid as a looming threat. Obviously, so in the film you've got Steppenwolf, who is maybe the worst character ever put to film. Genuinely. I agree. Adore my man Steppenwolf. But clearly, and you can tell in the story, and you can tell when you watch the film, that Steppenwolf is there to set up Darkseid, because why else would he be there?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the movie, not to get too much into kind of the minutiae of it, but at the end of the movie, when they send Steppenwolf back through the boom tube, originally, and there's previews out there for it, you were going to see a glimpse of Darkseid, and there was going to be a scene where Steppenwolf returns to Apokolips disgraced, and it's kind of like the post-credit scene from Age of Ultron, where it's like, fine, I'll do it myself. The teasers in the next movie, Darkseid's going to come, he's going to win, he's going to turn it into like the hellish nightmare future from Batman v Superman, and then they're going to have to travel back in time and fix it. You can see that that's where the narrative was going, but in Justice League, none of that's paid off, which then retroactively hurts the other movies more. because it makes all the stuff they add into Batman v Superman, for example, even more necessary.
Yeah, exactly. And you're kind of like teasing a point that I've been making forever, where like with the DC movies in general, I feel like Warner Brothers saw all the money that Marvel was making for their cinematic universe, and like everyone was like, loving them. And any movie, no matter how mediocre or how amazing it was, every fan was like, lining up and opening up to go see it and stuff. And so you can just tell that they were so in a hurry to rush the cinematic universe model where they didn't really give a fuck about long-term character arcs. They didn't really give a fuck about the actual place that this movie would have in the entire universe. And so like if you look at phase 1 of the Avengers saga, for example, every single movie, if you had no idea there's a Marvel Cinematic Universe and you had no idea there was post-credit scenes and stuff, you would have legitimately zero idea that all those were connected unless you like
Exactly.
knew all that shit. But and then actually the Avengers film, it makes sense in their character arcs why they have to team up. Tony Stark is a fucking egotistical asshole. Captain America is a man stuck out of time. Bruce Banner controls anger and his emotions. Black Widow and Hawkeye are estranged assassins. Thor is an ideologue that's like basically giving the middle finger of his entire life. And so like to have everyone come together in a team movie, that gives finality to every fucking character arc. But with Justice League, it's like they Man of Steel, then a kind of team up movie, and then Justice League. And I'm like, you have to take your fucking time.
Yeah, I think what kind of speaks volumes about that was up until the day it was released, Man of Steel was never meant to be connected
Really?
to anything.
I didn't know that.
So we took, not to plug that video too much, but one of the things that I didn't realize was, so when they were produced, so the way Man of Steel came about was during the writing of The Dark Knight Rises. Christopher Nolan and David Goyer were kind of at like a crossroads over where to take the story. And so they kind of just got chatting about Superman, just hypothetically. And Nolan pitched to Goyer, if you were making a Superman movie today, what would you do? So Goyer told him his pitch. Nolan then took it to Warner Brothers and said, you want to make this movie because this is going to be a good movie. And so they hired Goyer and they hired Nolan as a producer. And the pretense was that it was essentially going to be like the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
It was going to be a series of self-contained, standalone movies that just told Superman's development to become the character we know, the same way that the Dark Knight films did with Batman. Now, somewhere between the development and the release of that film, you had the explosion of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, that was around before that, but it didn't become the huge pop culture phenomenon we know until Avengers came out. Avengers came out and changed everything. And then from then on, doing a cinematic universe was the way to go. Because obviously you look at the financial success that Marvel was having at the time and continued to have. It makes sense that DC would want to get into that, sure. So they just took what they were doing and said, right, how can we turn this into Justice League? So like when Man of Steel was in the post-production, they were throwing together a Justice League script. Not the script that got used, and this had nothing. This was before Snyder was signed on to Returned.
Yeah,
they were throwing together another script. I think, now if I remember correctly, yeah, they got the guy who wrote Gangster Squad in, Will Beall, to throw a screenplay together. And I made a video on that, by the way. Go watch it. But they got him to do that with the pretense that it was going to be Henry Cavill coming back, and they were going to cast the rest of the Justice League from within the Man of Steel universe. And ultimately, they canned his script, and then Snyder obviously did so with Man of Steel. They gave him the keys to the castle, and they went in that direction. But it shows, like, from the beginning, how little long-term planning there was. It's been, from between, like, the day Man of Steel came out and the day Justice League came out, that studio was completely reactionary.
Yeah.
Like, there was no long-term goal. There was no plan other than just, we need to make a Justice League movie. And the ironic part is, they made a Justice League movie, and it was the lowest-grossing film that they put out in this series.
Isn't that so sad? Like,
it's also so deserved.
I agree.
How do you ruin a Justice League movie? How is that not at least profitable?
Like, how does Thor and Ant-Man make more fucking money than a Justice League movie? That's blows my mind.
how do you make a Justice League movie, let alone one that you've been building up through numerous films? How do you make that and it not at least break even? Like,
Yeah.
it's completely mind-boggling, but yet here we are. And one of the things that I appreciate about DC now is that they're not, say, going for a long-term plan, but they've kind of disavowed the idea of interconnected storytelling altogether, and they're just focused on just making good movies, which sounds so simple to say,
Yeah.
obviously, but they're just focused on self-contained stories like Aquaman and Shazam that may have a few like little Easter eggs to other things, but
Exactly.
like we said earlier, but that's not the main function of the movie. That's just a little added bonus. And then
Yeah.
obviously you're getting things like Joker as well, which are going to be completely standalone. Now they're just getting good filmmakers in and saying, all right, go tell a story, go do it. If it works, maybe we'll do more of them. If it doesn't, we'll do something else. Which, I mean, it's worked for film studios for the last 100 years of just hiring people to make good movies, and they make good movies. I know it's crazy, right? But here we are.
Who would have thought?
Who would have
Like,
thought that the formula for success was just to hire talented people, let them make their work, and not fuck with them? And then
yeah.
if it works out well, reap the rewards, and if not, try again.
Yeah, I hear that, and that's something that I've been saying for the longest time. It's like DC was so desperate to capitalize on that sweet cinematic universe model where, like, if you look at Marvel, if you juxtapose them, Kevin
Hmm.
Feige is a comic book virgin like me. Like, he loved
Yeah,
that shit when he was a kid, and like he made that whole saga with the overarching story in mind of Thanos coming in with Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, right? But like
yeah.
but with Justice League, it's like perfect word you just said, like completely reactionary. And then like with these new movies, like I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Aquaman, and I love Shazam,
I
but like
like. I don't love Aquaman, but I enjoy it for what it
I
is.
love James
She's
Wan. I love
Yeah,
James Wan as the
agreed.
director.
I think for what it was, I think Aquaman was solid. It wasn't like a blowaway success, but it was a step in the right direction. That if they keep doing this approach, it'll work.
Yeah, I
Does that
totally
make
agree.
sense?
But what I was saying is like this really should be, and like if Shazam is an indicator, I don't know what is going to be. It has to be like clearly obvious that these movies do not have to set up an entire universe and have a million fucking post credit scenes and a million fucking teases and a million Easter eggs. Like they can just be a like homage to like whatever beloved graphic novel or whatever beloved character or whatever beloved character arc in the comics, and then have a self-contained story. And then down the line, if you want to connect them, sure, at least the character arcs have been set up such that you can
But
actually do that.
at least then, if you do, so say in 5 or 10 years' time, they do decide to do another sort of team up movie and put Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman and whoever's left back together. At least you've taken the time then that those movies stand on their own and those characters stand on their own. They're
Exactly.
not
Exactly.
there to service the movie. The movies are there to facilitate the stories with these characters that are already popular.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
for me as well, I think that, so I'm a naturally, I lean more towards the DC characters than I do to the Marvel
Me too.
characters, which for me is partly why I'm so frustrated and why I'm so interested with what's going on at the DC films. Because I love what Marvel are doing. What Marvel's doing is fantastic. It's everything I ever dreamed as a kid that we'd get to see.
Yeah.
I'm still giddy about Avengers Endgame.
Me too. We'll talk about that
Like,
in a little bit. Yeah.
it's like I saw things in that movie I never thought I'd see, but also it's a great movie.
Yeah.
If you
Exactly.
take all the comic book stuff out aside, it's just a fantastic film. And I think that what I kind of like about the way that DC's taking it is, so Marvel does the shared interconnected post credit scene thing perfectly. I mean, no one else has managed to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get more movies in the Dark Universe, please, Universal? I'm waiting for the Mummy too. No, I'm not. But what I mean is, Marvel have that. No one's else managed to crack the formula. That is their thing. Instead of trying to do it but not as well, DC are now doing something completely different, which is fuck continuity, fuck like building and world building and canon. These are just movies, which
Yeah.
is kind of the approach that Fox was taking with the X-Men films to mixed success.
Yeah.
But you did out of that. They had a higher like variety of range.
Higher
But you
yield,
also
yeah,
got
for
films
sure.
like Logan and Deadpool,
Yeah,
which those two especially are two of the best comic book movies ever made,
I agree.
and arguably films that, let's just face the facts, Marvel Studios wouldn't make Logan.
Yeah,
They
exactly. Like,
And I
they
mean,
absolutely wouldn't.
this isn't a knock on Kevin Feige or Marvel because I adore what they do, but Marvel wouldn't have greenlit and had the balls to do that with the biggest character like Wolverine to make a hard R Western style film that wasn't the most accessible thing to casual audiences, but they did it, and it is. I think it's one maybe in the top three comic book movies ever made. I love Logan.
Yeah, me too. I love. Honestly, like the fact that James Mangold improves so much on the Wolverine
Yeah,
to Logan is kind of absurd because the Wolverine, the first two acts, yeah, it's fun and it's
and then
dramatic
it
and like
falls off a fucking cliff.
yeah, then it's a complete abortion for the last fucking like act of it. But then like Logan, like you could just tell like they gave him okay, make your movie. You can take inspiration from
That's
this
it.
one comic book, and then that's it. Like do whatever
That's
you
it.
want.
Logan feels like such a passion product.
Exactly.
It is the product of the people making it. In the same way that, for example, I think the only films within the Marvel Cinematic Universe that have that feeling to me are the Guardians.
Oh yeah, for
That
sure.
the only person that could make those movies is
It's
James Gunn.
Which
The same way,
yeah.
which is so ironic considering everything that's happened over the past year.
Yeah,
But like,
let's talk about that a little bit. All right, so
Yes, let's.
all right, so for people who are listening right now, who don't know the drama, but I've talked about it like 55 and a half times in my channel, but James Gunn in July of 2018 was fired by Marvel for some, risque tweets they made about 10 or 11 years ago. The reason why this is because a guy named Mike Cernovich, I call him Snowflake Cernovich, essentially he's made a market for expressing propaganda reciprocally. So he'll go with somebody who either disagrees with him politically or somebody who's dissed him or someone who like has a ulterior goal to him, and basically he will just sift through their old social media or Instagram or Zanga or MySpace, whatever the fuck the kids used back in the day, and basically we'll find things that are troublesome and then we'll put them up in the town square and say, hey, this guy's a SJW rank propagandist, fluoride eating soy boy or some shit, and then he'll try and get them fired. Ironic thing is, every person he's tried to do this to is reinstated almost immediately. I mean, James Gunn took a little bit longer because the whole thing with Endgame didn't, it was a PR move clearly. But like with Sam Cedar, for example, I don't know how into politics you are, but like Sam Cedar he's an animator for Bob's Burgers. If you've seen that show,
okay. Yeah.
He's a contributor for MSNBC and he has his own political show on YouTube. And basically, he made a joke about like 12 years ago, and Cernovich like posted it out of context without citing the actual tweet, and then got him fired for a couple days. But then when everyone saw that, okay, this guy's a propagandist, he's an idiot, like they rehired him. So with James Gunn, like anybody who's a good faith actor could look at those tweets and like look at the jokes about like peeing on kids' heads and shit. Unless you're like malevolently trying to take him out of context and cancel the guy, for a fact that he is not a pedophile or advocating for pedophilia. And so like I just thought the whole situation was really, really stupid, and I never and to go on like some other deplatforming examples, like Roseanne Barr, for example, I'd never heard of that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she was fired while she was contracted with Disney during her actual contract duration, and while she said something like publicly on Twitter
There's a
during
clear
that.
difference between those two examples.
Big
though.
difference. Yeah, big
And
difference.
I saw that comparison being made, but the difference in Roseanne and James Gunn was the fact that what James Gunn said was years ago they got resurfaced
Before he was contracted, that's important
exactly.
too.
And it's important to know that Marvel were made aware of those comments
In
when they hired
2012.
him.
Yeah, in 2012.
And he released an apology when he was hired. So
Yeah.
that was something I decided. Whereas the Roseanne situation happened while she was under contract. The second difference is James Gunn was openly apologetic and demonstrated that he is not that same person anymore. With
Yeah.
Roseanne Barr, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like the thing that's annoying about that is, I mean, like, I'm on the mind that a comedian should never apologize for being a comedian. as long as the audience knows that it's a joke and they know that everything is being said in jest. But I will say that, you know, even if I had that sentiment of like, okay, it's a joke, people know it's a joke, why would you apologize? Even if I had that sentiment, the fact that he was already vetted for what he had done, he was admonished for it, he apologized for it, and he's clearly been reformed since then. The fact that you even try and like fire the guy over something like that is just ridiculous. So I always thought it was the most hypocritical thing that Disney could have ever done.
I mean, definitely. I mean, the problem was that Disney just looked at it in terms of PR. Like you said, they saw this is a guy that's causing us trouble. We have to sever ties to protect our own corporate image, which is kind of the sad inevitability of that's what was happened. That, you know, quite clearly the likes of Kevin Feige didn't want to lose James Gunn because he's one of the most talented filmmakers they have.
Yeah, exactly.
But because of the snowstorm and kind of how big the outrage to his comments were, you could make the argument that corporate Disney didn't see they had much of a choice. Now, thankfully, they realized that, you know, these things were taken out of context. They were a long time ago. He's clearly showed that he is a much better person now than he was then.
Yeah.
And so they rehired him. He's back. It's great. And he's also doing Suicide Squad, which is also going to be great. So now we get double the gun. So
like, dude, I just love the fact that like Cernovich tried to cancel him and he was like, "You're done. You're never making anything again." And he ended up helping his fucking career.
He's now getting twice the amount of work.
Like, he's gonna reboot the Suicide Squad. He's gonna make a fucking awesome Suicide Squad movie. And Jay Weinstein from Law Cinema was on a couple weeks ago, and he brought this point: the fact that we're finally getting a trilogy in the Marvel universe made by the same director with the same overarching vision is so awesome. Like, I'm so happy about that because, I mean, like, even though people were saying Taika Waititi and people were saying even Adam McKay, which I'm a huge Adam McKay fan.
Yeah,
it's in my channel. Yeah, but like James Gunn is the only guy that could have made Guardians 3. The only guy.
Those guys could have made good Guardians movies.
Even great,
been
but
right.
Not James Gunn.
Sure. Adam McKay and Taika Waititi are incredible filmmakers, and they do have similar comedic stylings.
But they ain't James Gunn.
But no, it's like you can imagine that they offered it to Taika theoretically because of how similar in tone him and James Gunn are. Like, I mean, you look at Ragnarok. If you didn't know, you'd probably think it was a James Gunn film. They are so similar that theoretically he was probably the first person they offered it to. But you got to think, from Taika's perspective, he's probably worked very closely with James Gunn. Why would he Why would he do that? He wouldn't. If you see your co-worker and someone that you respect and admire as a filmmaker get unjustly lose the passion project that they've spent years building, and then you're offered it, you wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
Would you? It's simple as that. And so I think the cynic in me feels like the reason they rehired James Gunn was partly because of it was good PR to do so, because public opinion had changed so much, and B, because no other director of his quality in Hollywood wanted it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, this is my tinfoil Alex Jones conspiracy theory hat coming on right now.
Are we going there?
Oh, we're going there. Like, honestly, like Feet McCabe's Pizzagate.
Okay, let me go get my fluoride. Because I don't drink tap water. I put chemicals in it, and you do things to the frogs.
Dude, I have a pet frog. He's actually he's bisexual. So he's not totally gay, but anyway,
you need to give him more water and see what happens.
Honestly,
see if you can kind of push him over the edge.
But like my theory is, I think they rehired him months ago, and then and so like, if you look at the Fox deal, like, obviously they know that most public opinion was in favor of James Gunn because they saw anybody who's not informed on politics could probably like look at those tweets and say, "Oh my God, this is terrible. Why would he say this?" People that know Mike Cernovich will probably know that, okay, this guy's a fucking idiot, like whatever. So Disney probably fired him because of the whole thing with Roseanne Barr, and like people that aren't nuanced will, compare the two and conflate the two as the same thing.
Like the idea of on face value, it seems like a very similar circumstance.
Exactly. But then after the Fox deal was out, now they have no real, risk of public perception, because once they get one of the biggest film studios in the world to actually become a subsidiary for them, then they're like, okay, who fucking cares? Like, come back.
I mean, at this point, they can do what they want. They own the world. They own all of us.
What do you think about that, by the way? The Disney conglomerate being so big that you can't even view it on a map.
Uh, Honestly, I don't know. It's a good question. There's like because Twitter is the place where everyone argues about their hot takes and which takes are hotter takes. Like, to the point where you have to mute phrases like unpopular opinions because it just gets
Yeah,
too self-congratulatory.
yeah,
I think the idea of like Disney monopolizing and owning so much of the entertainment industry is worrisome. There's also the aspect that Disney have, for the most part, a great track record of making quality movies, and that they will take the majority of the Fox properties and do good things with them. I'm excited to see what they do.
yeah,
It's not like they have just bought 20th Century Fox and stripped it of all its assets and laid everyone off. Like 20th Century Fox is still running as a studio. Most of its subsidiaries are still going to run. All
yeah.
the shows and the things that are in development are still going to be there, and those people are still going to have jobs. It's just going to be owned under one giant money mouse monster.
Yeah, yeah. Mickey Mouse is keys of the kingdom. Like,
That's it. I mean, I'm kind of in two minds about the whole thing. At one point, like the idea of it being such a big monopoly is scary, but at the same time, if Disney didn't buy Fox, then you know that like Apple or Google or someone else just would have done. And either way, one of these big companies is going to find a way to own all of us. And so, at least the one that's going to now makes good comic book movies. So,
yeah,
like, I feel comforted knowing that I'm owned by the same person that owns Iron Man. Like, maybe that makes me in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
exactly.
Who
We're gonna have our.
knows?
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do Lone Chemist Owen Loves Comics team up. We're gonna have our.
Yeah, I'm all about that.
Yeah. What's your superpower? What would you pick?
It's British wit and cynicism, and just like saying really depressing things in such a deadpan manner.
Yeah, exactly. No smile,
That's-
not even blinking.
No, that seems to be what I'm good at. Just
We're all gonna die someday.
make sure to leave a like and let me know what would be your preferred way of meeting the end.
Like and subscribe. Send a super chat to instantly die. Oh fuck.
You have to now pay money to die. That is the most capitalist thing I've ever heard.
So like with the whole Disney thing, my perception is on one thing, like I agree with you. I'm not a fan of completely unobstructed capitalism where it's like it's completely, overrun by just corporate greed and materialism. On the other hand, like Disney seems to be going in a way where they're going to let their filmmakers have a more of a voice as opposed to like fitting into some kind of box or criteria they have. The only property that I was apprehensive about them taking was, I mean, we knew Disney was gonna like get Star Wars at a certain point. It's too big to like not get under a big corporate umbrella. But like the only property that I was concerned about when they
James
had this
Cameron's
merger-
Avatar.
What's that?
James Cameron's Avatar.
Oh,
Is
that franchise
is this-
can crash and fucking burn. You heard it here first. But my big fear was Deadpool. Like I'm one of the few people that like I'm really versed in Deadpool comics. I fucking love Deadpool, and I legitimately cried when I first saw Ryan Reynolds in the suit. Like, maybe that's like sob, but I was like getting a little choked up because it's somebody that I thought was unfilmable. And so the fact that they had him in a movie where he was as crass, as crude, as funny, and as self-referential as he was.
Right.
Exactly.
They didn't have to change the essentials about the character. They made such a faithful version of the best of the Deadpool character. And like I said earlier about Logan, theoretically, Marvel never would have made Deadpool.
Yeah.
I mean, Fox didn't even want to make it.
Until the test footage leaked and everyone's like, make the fucking movie.
Until Tim Miller and Ryan Reynolds leaked the test footage so they could get the movie greenlit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, the fact that Fox, who have now a pretty good track record of taking gambles on filmmakers to do whatever with quite established properties, the fact that they were so apprehensive for so long, but then relented and let them make the movie for a measly, what was it, like $40 million?
Yeah.
It was like nothing. Like, X-Men Apocalypse had like 4 times the budget and made like half the gross.
Exactly.
which I love.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that movie is ass.
Oh, it's so ass. Oh man. But like with Deadpool though, like I'm pretty sure that's like I think it's like top three like highest grossing R-rated films of all time or something like that. Something crazy.
I think it might be the highest grossing.
It might be but even
Maybe.
so, like it's even more
It was
impressive than
such a huge success,
yeah. Like
which goes to show like the virtues of giving properties to filmmakers who care about them and want to do them right, and then giving them the freedom to go and do those stories.
yeah, for sure. And like it's a testament to if you take gambles, if you bet on a filmmaker, you will find an audience. And lo and
Yeah.
behold, there's a massive, massive, massive market for those films. I mean, like obviously a lot of superhero films are like tongue in cheeky and quippy, but they're also like, you know, have some gravitas. But like Fox, like I commend them for it. They proved that there's a market for a R-rated no holds barred gritty superhero movie and not like be morose like BVS where it's like it's completely grunge and like dark and like Suicide Squad or some shit. But like the fact that we'll talk about Suicide Squad later. Yeah, that movie sucks.
You have to.
But anyway, like they so like this is why I'm optimistic now because the whole Deadpool acquisition. Fox proved that there's a massive market for this type of film, and now Disney, they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot if their motive, if you look at it pragmatically, is only profit. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot and kill an entire revenue stream because Mickey Mouse is hungry for money.
That's it. Like I said, if they were inheriting a Fox that hadn't made Deadpool yet, there's no chance.
Yeah.
But because it's had two movies, both that have made huge profits.
Yeah.
They're going to keep cranking out R-rated Deadpool movies.
Exactly.
It's simple as that. It's like, now that they've inherited this... I mean, Deadpool is a franchise in and of itself now.
Yeah.
It's not just part of the X-Men franchise. They've inherited the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and Deadpool.
Yeah.
I mean, what's probably going to happen is we're going to get Deadpool films. They're just going to be outside of Marvel Studios. They're going to be released under the 20th Century Fox banner, which is probably where they'll stick their other like Alien and Predator movies when they inevitably make more great Alien and Predator movies.
Yeah. They ruined a fucking franchise, man. Let's talk about this.
I can't wait for Shane Black's The Predator 2.
I haven't seen I haven't seen the reboot, but
it is
interesting.
Okay. I said it was the worst movie I saw all last year.
Really?
Yes. Mostly because I saw Venom drunk.
Dude, Venom was so much fun though, because like legitimately, the only saving grace of that movie is Tom Hardy actually trying. Like
he goes full on 90s Jim Carrey in that movie,
dude,
and I'm all for it.
Dude, it is The Mask meets like a horror movie meets a superhero movie. Like that is what it is, and he embraces it. But everyone else in the film is not in the same movie as he is.
No. But it's how great and like just how diverse and how over the top he is.
Yeah.
Versus how flavorless and hollow everyone else is.
His girlfriend, like, hi Eddie, you shouldn't do that.
I have never seen Riz Ahmed uncharismatic.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Riz Ahmed. He is phoning it in hard in that movie.
I know. He didn't give a fuck.
I don't blame him. But at the same time, I mean, as someone's just noted in the comments there, The Mask is a comic book character.
It is.
And I mean, I probably haven't watched The Mask movie in a long time, but that is a great movie.
It's so much fun.
It's probably not, but I remember it being a great movie. So I'm going to stick with The Mask being a great movie.
It was just so unabashedly, like, so fucking silly.
But it's not as good as Son of the Mask, which is a movie I do remember seeing. I went to the cinema to watch that.
Jamie Green, holy shit. That
was so I said The Predator was the worst movie I saw all last year. The only saving grace was that I had, basically I got into it for free. So I didn't feel ripped off. Because, wow, that movie. The only thing it was missing, and I think the one thing that could have improved it, so you know how the main guy was the villain from Logan?
Yeah.
If that was Joel Kinnaman's character from Suicide Squad, the undeserved goat of cinema, that is Rick Flag from Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
If that was the main character, I think I would have enjoyed the movie. Because Rick Flag in Suicide Squad is the most just plot spewing, exposition, like
This is Katana. Her soul is in the sword. I'm like, every 10 minutes.
The greatest part is at the end when like Harley attacks floating Cara Delevingne. The way like he grabs Will Smith by the shoulder and he's like, "Her heart's out. We can end this." It's like,
what are we? Some kind of Suicide Squad?
Roll credits.
All right, but actually, so last topic here. So I don't want to keep it too long, but like honestly, like this is awesome, and we definitely do this again sometime. If I haven't scared you off my dank memes.
No.
Oh,
I have not yet been destroyed by facts and logic, so I feel okay.
Okay, Aladdin. I know, it's hard to talk about.
I'm going to see it, and I'm going to keep an open mind.
Dude, like...
Though, I will say, I watched one trailer, and I have not watched anything else since, because I'm going to see it, so I'm going to keep an open mind.
Like... Okay, so let me preface my whole opinion on...
Also, why?
Yeah, so let me preface my whole opinion on the Disney live-action remakes. I'm not saying that they can't be good. They can be good. I think The Jungle Book is a great film. And honestly, like, the fact that Jon Favreau was able to pull it off to the degree that he did is actually fucking absurd. Like, he really pulled off a marvel of fucking visual storytelling and, like, beautiful CGI. Like, probably, I think that movie is probably the best CGI I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I had no idea they made it in just one insular studio until I saw the BTS
when you
for it.
realize that basically everything except the kid is computer generated.
It's incredible.
Like, they shot the whole thing on a green screen in a soundstage in Los Angeles. It's mind-blowing.
It's absurd.
There is nothing on location about that film. It is just astounding.
Yeah, like it really, honestly, and that film was so underrated as just a pure technical achievement because, like, I mean, I love Disney films. I love the animated Disney films from back in the day. I think The Jungle Book is probably one of the weaker ones, and so if you're going to take a property and, like, you know, change it to a live action format, that was probably a great one to do it with. But even if it wasn't, though, that movie honestly added more dimensions besides the visual effects to that movie that I probably could have ever foreseen for that movie. So I'm not saying that live action remakes cannot be good. They of course can be good, as we've seen with the Jungle Book. The Cinderella one was kind of cringy. Beauty and the Beast was kind of cringy. But like my sentiment is known that I don't think that you're necessarily bound to, okay, don't touch it. As long as you have a good vision, you can make a good movie.
No, that's it. As long as you're adding something to what's as long as you're not just remaking for the sake of remaking. If you're putting a different spin on it, or if you want to do something different with a pre-existing story, then yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. But Aladdin. So I IGN released a clip of the Prince Ali song when the genie is like ushering in Aladdin to the Palace of Agrabah.
Okay.
And you remember Funny or Die? It looks like a Funny or Die sketch.
Right.
Like I swear to God, I saw it and I'm like, nah. Like, this has to be a troll. Because, like, they're using, like, a really ostentatious and completely in-your-face rap beat. And, like, it's Will Smith completely auto-tuned to the ass.
Wait. Is Will Smith going to rap all the songs in this movie?
Well, he's not rapping, but it's
because,
like a Prince.
That would be the only saving grace if we get, like...
90s hip-hop.
Yeah, like, it worked for Men in Black. It worked for Wild Wild West, as in that song is better than anything that ever came out of that movie.
That is actually true. You're right.
If Will Smith releases the song Aladdin, then maybe I'm just going to be on board with it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to happen. But anyway.
I mean,
Man.
I'm going to say it. I will keep an open mind, but I haven't been particularly enthralled, let's put it that way. And like we said, I'm not one of those people that is against remakes and is against them rebooting like popular and beloved franchise. Like, yeah, do what you want. Like we talked about with translating graphic novels, I'm in the camp that's like, yeah, remake The Godfather, sure. If the new ones are shit, then I've still got the originals. Like, yeah, do what you want. If it works, then we've got more of those stories that I like. If it doesn't work, then I've still got the ones that I do like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even still, the Disney live-action films seem very hit or miss, and I think that a lot of them, Jungle Book aside, don't have any unique identity other
They're
than the fact that they
uninspired.
are
You're
live
absolutely
action.
right. They're uninspired.
The selling point is it's the story you've seen before, but now it has actors you recognize. And I don't think that's enough of a selling point to make a movie good.
Yeah.
Whereas with Jungle Book, there is at least a technical achievement with that film. Where it's
Yeah.
like you can, there is the spectacle and there is. I mean, it's a really good movie. It has a compelling narrative and great characters, but you have this. There's something tangible, new about the film that the other ones don't have. And Lion King, I'm also in two minds about because I think that like again, like the fact that the CGI and stuff all looks great, but also it looks completely flat and
Yeah.
lacks any of the color and the charm of the original movie, which is what happens when you try and make photorealistic
Yeah.
animals. It is
Talking.
not going to
Yeah.
look as interesting. It is going to look like a National Geographic documentary,
Yeah.
which unfortunately is
That's
the
the
avenue
thing.
they've gone down.
Yeah, dude, like, and like with the Jungle Book, like maybe it's just me, but like those the animal faces in the Jungle Book, they looked more anthropomorphized than they do in the Lion King trailer, at least from what I've seen. Like
Yeah, no,
it
I
looks
agree.
like so like I think the animators spent so, at least from what I've seen, they spend so much more time on the faces of the animals in the Jungle Book to not have it leak into Uncanny Valley. But like with this movie though, it seems like they literally just took a National Geographic like movie and just added subtitles to it. That's what it seems
Yeah,
going to be.
it does. I think they've gone too far with it almost. It's like
Yeah.
it's one of those. I can appreciate what they're trying to do, but I don't think it. What's the benefit of it? What is the benefit of a photorealistic Lion King movie?
Money.
Well, yeah, well, yeah, but like, it's the fact that it looks like animals you've seen a selling point. I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Exactly. And James Earl Jones and Jeremy Irons not in the movie but he's still alive, so you're going to have Chiwetel Ejiofor, which great actor.
Which I mean, like, yeah, sure,
But
like,
like if you're going to have a callback to the original movie and you have one voice to do so, why wouldn't you get the original villain as well? I'm just
I
like
mean,
it's weird.
it's one of those. If you're gonna get one, why don't you just get them all?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, why go halfway with it? If you're bringing James Earl Jones back, why not bring Jeremy Irons back?
Yeah.
If you're, it's like, for example, because there was obviously the discussion about who was going to play the genie when they did Aladdin, and like they very well could have just used Robin Williams' voiceover and just used that version of the character, but they didn't. And I do appreciate the fact that they are doing something different. Whether it works or not is to be determined, but at least they are just not doing an imitation of Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Whereas with Lion King, the fact that they are getting some of the people back, but also not getting others, it's like either commit to being different to the original or don't. Either
Yeah.
it is just a photorealistic adaptation of the source material to a T, other than the fact that the lions look less interesting, or it's a new take on it. Like either one, like I'm fine with. Just commit to an idea. And to be honest, from what I've seen, it doesn't look like they have.
Yeah. It's like they're straddling the middle ground between invocation versus an adaptation. And I don't really
Yeah.
know what's going to happen with that. But last topic now that I have you here, we'll go
Okay.
one more. Adam McKay.
Adam
So
McKay.
I am
Are you gonna ask me about Vice?
yes. For
Okay.
example, I'm going to be full disclosure here. Vice is my top movie of 2018. Like I adored Vice, and so like I understand that like people it's predicated sometimes on politics. Like if you're not part of the party that it's actually advocating for, or maybe you don't agree with the historical interpretation of it. Maybe you don't like the zany kind of pseudo documentary aspects of the filmmaking. Maybe you're not a big fan of like the fact that it's so fourth wall breaking at certain points. It's like jarring, but
It's
but
borderline parody.
it's parody. It's
Yeah,
satire. It is political satire.
It's completely satirical. Okay, so Vice. I saw Vice late because of. So when I saw the original trailers for Vice, and the original trailers played it quite straight, as if it was just a Dick Cheney biopic,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this looks fine. Christian Bale will probably get an Oscar for it. Or the guy that mimes some Freddie Mercury might. But, let's... Okay, tangent again. Rami Malek is maybe the only saving grace of Bohemian Rhapsody, other than the fact that it has
The only
that
one.
has songs by a band I like.
Yeah, I
And
totally agree.
there are interludes between awful editing and filmmaking where I can just listen to
The
songs I
editing.
like.
The editing. Oh my god.
Okay, we could do a podcast on both.
Yeah.
In and of
That's
itself.
episode 2. But go on about Vice.
And
Yeah.
just the bit where Mike Myers shows up just so he can make a Wayne's World reference.
Please, I'm gonna have a brain aneurysm. Please stop. Just talk about Vice.
But yeah, so I was quite late to the party on Vice. Like, I probably didn't see it until like maybe like just before Christmas.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it did get a later release in the UK, but I could have watched it in other non-theatrical ways.
Yeah.
But still, I kind of got really into wanting to see it when all of the controversy came out around its Oscar nomination for Best Editing, because of how strange some of the editing in the movie is. Obviously, the big example is the fishing scene
Yeah.
with Cheney and Bush. It's like, it is very non-conventional editing, and kind of the controversy that's about that really, I found that fascinating. I remember chatting to Bailey from Breaking Banter about it, who loves the editing in Vice.
Yeah, I love it too.
And so that made me really want to go see it, besides the fact that I'm a big fan of Adam McKay and I'm a big fan of Christian Bale. So I went to see it. So, full disclosure, I am a historian by profession. One of the things I do specialize in is American political history.
Mm-hmm.
So I was clued up enough. Like, my friend who I went with isn't really into politics, let alone American politics. So a lot of like the minutiae of the film was lost on him, whereas I was able to keep up with the things they are satirizing. Okay, I can completely understand why it's so controversial, but it was also made to be controversial.
Exactly.
That's the thing. It is not a sit on the fence kind of biopic. It is a parody of a man that is he still alive?
He's still alive.
Okay, which makes it all the more ballsy, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
They are making a cinematic teardown of a man that still exists. But, like, in fairness, they say full disclosure from the beginning that this isn't going to be an objective discussion of the life of Dick Cheney. This is a movie made by a filmmaker with an opinion on Dick Cheney the person, making a movie that articulates his feelings.
Yeah.
And, you know, there is the argument that filmmakers shouldn't put their own personal biases into movies, but that's also completely impossible to do because everyone is in some way inherently biased one way or another with anything. The only difference is that Adam McKay vocalizes and makes his feelings known. Now, if you don't agree with his presentation of Cheney or the way he construes his life story, then that's fine. But for me, as someone that enjoys what Adam McKay does in that movie, I think it's great. I think it's such a fascinating film.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And like I've had a lot of conversations about this movie, and like I totally get it that like people that view this, like, you know, politics has become such a divisive thing in America, and I would say from 2015,
it's not even just America; it's just in general.
But everywhere, but especially now in America, is like it's just become completely like off the fucking spectrum, like Overton windows, like off the fucking cliff. But like, but the thing is, like, if you really love film and you love the way that films are made, and you're dialed into the logistics and the actual the things behind the set that are moving, you cannot deny that if you take politics out of the equation for a second, which is hard, but if you look at the actual objective filmmaking, you cannot deny that some of the most exciting, daring filmmaking ever made. Like,
oh, it's fantastic.
Honestly, and I made a video essay on my channel sucking his dick for about 12 minutes, so check that out. Quick plug.
Is it great? You can't quick plug on your own channel.
It's a joke.
That's
Damn,
not how
man.
It works. I just
joke.
destroyed you with facts
and logic.
Oh,
fuck.
That should have been the subtitle to Vice. Destroying a real man with facts and logic. I mean, it's like, I've seen the people saying like, so like, I get why people who don't share the political ideas of Adam McKay won't like the movie, and I'm completely fine with that. I'm more than happy to have discussions with people who feel like that movie does Dick Cheney harshly, and like, yeah, sure, let's have it, because then it spurs on a discussion about Dick Cheney, the politician, which is great. If anything, it encourages discourse and debate of people from different waves of kind of the political spectrum, which is cool. because now you're having discussions with, for argument's sake, more conservative people who don't like the way they present the film, and you could ask, well, why? How do you feel about it? And then you can
Yeah.
have that. But it's not like in the instance of First Man, where it's kind of like blind hate over something that isn't even in the movie, but they just got told they dislike.
Yeah.
Like, there are reasons why someone who maybe is a fan of Dick Cheney as a politician won't like Vice, but it wasn't necessarily made for that target audience.
Yeah.
It is made for people who share a similar sentiment to what Adam McKay and Christian Bale likely feel.
And the thing that's really interesting is I totally agree with you. We're like, yes, of course, like there is going to be something predicated in the kind of audience that's going to be seeing the movie. But I've talked to a lot of people that are on that kind of spectrum where like they actually, it's not like they look on the Cheney years with fondness, because even people that are fans of Cheney can't really look on them with fondness. But like I've talked to people that are like, disparately politically different from Adam McKay, and they thought the movie was fucking brilliant. Like, and they said, like, when you watch that movie, it doesn't feel like you're being shit on. It feels like a lively debate. And that's what I feel like is such a, that's something that's so rare that you see in movies. And the fact that Adam McKay is doing that in the kind of guise of a very irreverent comedy is amazing. And one thing that I think is brilliant is, I mean, you bring up the fishing editing, for example. I think the most impressive editing in the entire thing is when Cheney finally gets to Washington and he's going down the rundown of his entire administration. And instead of like having a really morose scene where they're sitting around like, hey, Will, Senator, I hope you play ball this and this deal, you know what I'm saying? Like, Adam McKay uses fucking Stratego to show how basically he's putting the chessboard in his favor. I thought that was the most brilliant fucking thing. Like, and like, obviously you can't, take politics out of it too much, because like that's part of the plot and the narrative device that it uses. Yeah. But like, take that out of the equation for a second. The objective filmmaking, the editing, the performances, the cinematography, you can't deny that it took a really ballsy approach to actually make something like that and have it be even commercially even recognized. That's something that has to be commended at least a little bit. And the fact that like people casting it as, oh no, this is made by a soy boy, anti-SGW, fluoride cuckboy eating whatever the fuck it is. Like hashtag all the things I just said. But
hashtag not my Cheney.
But
not my Vice.
Not my Vice. Yeah. True Vice. Inherent Vice. Which
It's funny reference. Because I feel like the way you feel about Vice is very similar to how I feel about BlacKkKlansman.
I love BlacKkKlansman, dude. Like,
I mean, BlacKkKlansman was my second favorite movie of last year.
What was your first?
I mean, Infinity War.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry, Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse is great. Yeah. But I was going to say, like, Vice and Infinity War are like completely tied for me. But go on. Sorry.
Spider-Verse was my favorite, but BlacKkKlansman was a close second. But yeah, I mean, BlacKkKlansman is a very similar movie in that sense, which is that the only difference there is that the core narrative itself isn't built on politics, but a lot of the themes and the symbolism and the greater metaphor within the film is very political charged, especially in contemporary discourse. Sorry, my voice is going. While the subject matter of BlacKkKlansman itself is obviously a period piece set decades ago, which therefore seemingly has no bearing on contemporary things that are going on, Spike Lee very, very openly makes connections between mindsets and attitudes in that movie to things going on currently.
Yeah.
And he goes very far with it and very ballsy, to the point where those moments within the film turned a lot of people off. But again, much like Vice, Klansman isn't played as an objective, straight movie. It is a movie where, for example, it doesn't present... I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it. It doesn't present the idea of the Klansman as legitimate in any way. The film openly mocks them.
Yeah.
The film openly treats them and their ideologies comedic.
Yeah, they're a caricature.
Yeah, it is a complete... I mean, you could make the argument that the way Vice presents Dick Cheney and the way that Klansman presents David Duke... By the way, Topher Grace was snubbed of a Best Supporting Actor nomination because he's amazing in that movie.
Dude, which honestly, like, when they announced he was going to be cast David Duke, I'm like, what? How?
Exactly.
What?
But he's amazing.
He's great.
I thought he stole the whole movie for
he
me
was
personally.
Great.
I think that though I think it's very interesting that those two movies came out in the same year, partly because they are both very much a reaction to ongoing political events.
Yeah.
And I think that like you have to take out of the equation where you fall on the political spectrum and just appreciate the fact that there are filmmakers being very bold in both the filmmaking in general, as in like the hard editing and cinematography and the actual filmmaking, but also in the types of stories they're going out to tell and the relationship that that has with the contemporary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I think both those movies are great. I really like them. But as someone that may not agree with the messages of them, I can understand why you may not, but you should at least be able to appreciate the craft of them, if nothing else.
I totally agree. And
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you just disavow Black Klansman because of some of the connections it makes in that movie, you are also missing out on an incredible, real story.
Yeah.
That is both just an incredible story and also an incredibly funny story. After watching the movie, I then went and read Ron Stallworth's actual autobiography.
Yeah.
And it is just, in fairness, it is just as strange and bizarre as the film presents it.
Yeah.
Like
that, it's bonkers. That whole story is bonkers too.
Oh, it's fascinating. And I mean, me as a historian, as someone that has looked at race and kind of like, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it, like, and I went into a lot of study on the civil rights movement and the plight and struggles of blacks in contemporary America and the backlash there was to those movements.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's something that I'm going to be very interested in, seeing that was one of my major disciplines, but also seeing a movie treat that in such a way I also found to be great. I love both those movies.
Yeah. So
but they're not Spider-Verse, so I'm sorry. I can't.
But goddamn
Nothing.
Spider-Verse. Yeah. Okay.
Look,
Spider-Verse and Bohemian Rhapsody's editing is next episode because like we're gonna be here all fucking night because like you and I are getting along very well and we could talk about those movies for fucking hours.
yeah, I mean, same time next, whenever.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, man, this has been an awesome episode. Obviously we got along really well, so thank you for coming on for sure.
I'd love to come back.
Yeah, no, I'd love to have you on again.
If you find more ways to destroy me with facts and logic, I'd be more willing to cry.
Taking a blunt object forged in the fires of truth and symbolism with the brute vigor of facts and logic to your face of uninformed corruption.
That was slightly arousing. Honestly, I'm going to have to go take a shower now. Wow. What a way to end this
dude, I'll
extravaganza.
I'll tweet you like a 6-paragraph thing like Lone Chemist takes Owen Loves Comics face and disparages it in a big boiling bin of apples and whatever of truth, whatever. Yeah, give me like I need some more time here. Yeah, no, I'm not a stand-up comedian, you know.
Read it to me on the next podcast.
Sounds good.
I will react. I will react to your honest erotica. Let's call it that.
All right. Before we get too hot and bothered, tell anybody who's going to watch this in the future where to find you and how to get in contact with you. Patreon, Twitter, anything like that.
Hello, people of the future. I hope the planet hasn't set on fire or drowned itself yet, because climate change is a real issue, and we should probably all do something about it.
I like
by
that.
the way, because I can swim, but not everyone can. Some people might drown. But if you want to talk to me, you can do it on Twitter at Owen Likes Comics, and I make YouTube videos about George Clooney and his weird nipple rubber suit. Yeah, I made a video on Batman and Robin. Go watch it. It's a lot of fun. I make videos on lots of stuff. Not all of them have Judge Clooney's nipples in. Some of them do. Spot them if you can. Leave them in the comments below, and you'll get sent a like.
Or even a heart. Yeah. If the nipples, if the picture of your nipples,
if you can find both, I will leave you a heart. There's your deal. But yeah, in all seriousness, because I'm done playing deadpan. Thanks for having me on. This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed all of this. And yeah, I can't wait to come back on soon. It seems like we still have loads that we can talk about, so I'm excited.
Oh yeah, no, we got a list for sure. Anyway, Lone Chemist Podcast, episode 30.